For all newcomers, I want to say that on my channel, you won't find magic signals or a money button. I only have an educational format. Specifically, I thoroughly analyze the situation, enter, and work through it with a full demonstration, opening and closing a trade. I don't just teach people to capture a movement of 1-2 points, then put a crown on their head and say, look, what a great trader I am. I captured a movement, a tiny one of 1-2 points, that's it. Come on, buy my course or use my signals. Guys, I am here to teach people to look at the situation on a larger scale so that if they can't make money on binary options, they can go and earn on Forex. That is not just this pip movement, but a normal movement that can be captured on Forex. On Forex, on stocks, on the stock market. You can do it with crypto, but with icons, preferably with more icons. Let's recall, yes. And basically, let's remind everyone, what are the possible scenarios or options for trading on binary options? What can be done here? A binary option is a very flexible thing because you can use a short expiration time, like 2-3 minutes. So what can be done? You can enter on a pullback, for example, from a zone. You can enter to this zone. Yes, that's already 2 entry options. What else can be done? You can connect your head, use candlestick analysis, volume analysis, cluster, general logic, and read each candle. More or less, you can read each candlestick. Yes, so I'll be doing something from these 3 options today. Let's see. Well, upback, looking at what's happening in the market again, I really don't want to enter it because right now CC looks much better than this mess. What are these candlesticks? Where do they come from at this time? How is this? How should this be understood? What is this? It's like visiting grandma in the village. She also has a fence like this, old and scary. And in it it's uneven, right? One stick is higher, another stick is lower, but all damn big sticks. Horrible in short. In general, I'm clicking through situations. And here comes an interesting moment. And I would use EuroCAD to enter a short position if I manage to. EuroCAD, 64%. Not a big deal. 300 entry for a short position. I'll prepare the amount for a follow-up here. Let me explain why. I'm getting right into this situation now. Here, everything is basically very simple. There is a main area. From this area, we had increased volumes. I can assume there was liquidity. Based on these plus-minus indices with some margin of error, we have the fact of a significant buyer appearance, after which we see a good surge upwards. That is, I can assume that if the seller comes back to these price levels, it might happen from here as well. Retracement movement. I enter for a decrease purely to this area, this small distance for 2 minutes. Why? Look, last time we shot up from here, came, made this high. After this high, we have a sharp drop. We almost come back to this area, don't quite reach it, then pull back up again. To be precise, we go into accumulation. And now, according to this accumulation, where are we approaching? We are approaching this area. That is, we didn't go up from the accumulation, we went down from the accumulation, and here there is confirmation of liquidity, both in terms of volume and essentially in the breakout. So here we have 30 seconds near the opening point, still hovering. On each candle, there is a pullback movement, meaning there was an attempt by the buyer to go higher everywhere, and we close it everywhere. Specifically, I'm interested in this candle where essentially there are fewer buyers and a bit more sellers, a good fact for attempting to go lower. Next, what is happening at the very bottom? We have volume at the bottom, we are closing basically, I would say, that it's a slight loss of strength. Look here, a minus, yes, nothing terrible happened. You pay. Got really lucky with the follow-up, opening a follow-up on the downside. The only thing is that it's bad according to the cluster. This area of interest remained at the top, but the main fact is that we passed the area of interest and in the end closed the candle in our favor, meaning the body of the candle closed lower than the area of interest. Good for the seller. Basically, I have gathered a bunch of facts. My main task is to collect a profit up to this area. Ideally, of course, where the buyer will appear. After this, there is no update of the minimum. This minimum was quite recent. It's unlikely that it's interesting for it to come here and bounce off this minimum again to rise. There, that's the whole treat. These minimums have already been taken out by this. So, essentially, I can remove this area here and just mark the most important minimum where the price will move. In principle, let's put a smiley and wait a minute. 3 seconds remain until the end, plus there is. Let the first catch up, absolutely nothing to worry about. I have only 3 catch-ups in reserve, I don't use more than 3. So this is how the situation looks on TradingView. Let's think if we can go further. Already? By the cluster. I see the appearance of buyers. We are closing on buyers. Plus, divergence is forming and there's a chance that a pullback movement will occur now. How significant this pullback movement will be is unclear to me, but the fact remains that we have a target we will try to move towards. This pullback movement is solely due to the appearance of a buyer in the area and the divergence. The volume for the buyer is growing weakly, while for the seller it is growing well. Therefore, EuroCAD, I will try to use this small pullback movement to my advantage. And once again, I will take an entry for a decrease here. 750, the amount for catching up. Let's start with 2 minutes, then we'll see. We wait. 4 seconds remain until the end. We're hovering near the opening point, but it gives a plus. Yes, good. Okay. The second plus on this pair, I still don't see movements lower, although we bought back after. We bought back the divergence. We bought back the appearance of the buyer. Oh, so much buyer. Now there's a seller below. We need to look at it by the minute. The volume has increased by the minute. It has increased most likely due to the appearance of a seller. To go and take this tasty liquidity so close, in principle, it would be nice. Now I think I've already taken 2 pluses on this pair downwards. I would try to take the retracement movement here as well. Now on this pair, a couple of pairs. But I would like to take it closer to this minimum. To risk to open a deal for a decrease. At such a distance now so close to point X, I wouldn't want to because as I see there are quite large candles here, which means it can shoot up sharply. Quickly take this minimum and retrace. Therefore, let's try purely safely closer to this minimum to take an entry for an increase here. What do we have below? Below we only have the main ones. The minimums are at a very large distance with large candles. It's unlikely that we will go to them, so I see the point in retracing from this. We need a correction, especially since look, there's a button here. Well, give me a good entry point. I wouldn't want to open right here. Look at the buyer, how it grows, and the seller becomes less. Zone of interest, I would like to see the zone of interest closer to the customer's candle opening, because for now the zone of interest is here. And if the sellers manage to close below this zone of interest, then the possibility to go lower will remain for us. If they close higher, it will be bad for the seller. Marika is highlighting the buyer, but I wouldn't want to take a pullback from here. After all, there is a main goal. So there is a divergence. The zone of interest is higher. This is bad for the seller and the buyer is increasing. And in the cluster, the buyer is winning. And the divergence is also in favor of the buyer, but I still won't go in for it. After all, logically, we should be moving to update this minimum. For now, the meaning of this movement is unclear to me. I would take an entry on a pullback closer to here. Therefore, I'll put a plus sign here, which for some reason doesn't want to work for me. So let's set an alert and I'll go look for more situations. GBP out. I like the situation. Ready. In principle, I could enter it right away, but I will use a slightly extended time. So GBP out, right? 76. GBP out. 4 minutes. I will use an entry for an increase. I'll prepare the amount for the martingale here. Look, what a dilemma we have here. There is currently a divergence indicating a pause. Some kind of pullback is expected. The body of the candle is closed. The body of the candle is closed higher. Good for the buyer? Good. Cluster. Remains with the buyer. Loss of strength from above. I, in principle, don't see it either. In terms of volume, the buyer becomes more than in the previous candle. The seller becomes less. Now, the main thing. We scale the chart. What do we see here? We see the stop from where we had an incredibly great downward movement. There was also news. This news did not reverse the price. It went down. It doesn't matter. We see the fact that we fell from here. That is, at these prices, I can assume there is liquidity, there is volume. Or for selling? Where might the nearest good seller appear? Correct. In this stop. By the way, perhaps he already showed himself here. Next, we make this low. From here, the trend begins. A standard trend is going. At this moment, the angle becomes stronger, meaning the buyer accordingly becomes stronger. Why is he doing this? In order to recover from this failure, to come and take this liquidity, I didn't look at this moment, but as I understand, it's spot on. We didn't have a takeoff. That is, we didn't reach the area. You can take this as an error, plus or minus. I already know that it exists at the moment. And this can be considered already a pullback from this area. But what is the dilemma? That, without letting the seller go down again, the buyer is once again moving upward with this movement. That is, logically, he's trying to make another attempt to approach his main goal, why he came here initially. I can assume that still in this interval we have the strength remains with the buyer. What's here? Here we have 2 more minutes. Well, we haven't gone far. Here, Bobkin's fence, a second here, a second there, so opening a follow-up for now. So down here at the very bottom, maybe a follow-up could have been opened. What is a weak buyer? 4 ticks. Now there will be a local one, again a sideways movement, that is there was a sideways movement here, again a sideways movement. Alright, okay, not a big deal, 5 minutes. A follow-up will be used in this place. We'll take a little more time, yes, that is. All the facts have been stated, that is well, all the facts are here. Essentially for the movement upwards, what else to say here, I don't know. Yes, right now we are completely losing the buyer. The buyer is very weak, 11 ticks. But again, what does this mean? It's unlikely that at this moment we didn't let the seller go down just to bounce back down from this point. Well, That's illogical, right? So he will either go sideways here now, or he must somehow pick up and try to reach his goal. We'll see. That's why I took a little more time, specifically 5 minutes. So I'll prepare 1750 for now. We still have 4 minutes left. Oh, what sharp movements are happening. I don't see anything terrible. We're waiting. So anyway, you see from time to time it takes and shoots up with sharp movements. All right, here are 3 more minutes. We're almost back to the opening point again. What is this? Well, in a second. How you annoy me. UTS, you're so calm right now compared to this. All right, let's wait a little bit. 3 seconds left until the end. I want to leave this pair due to its unreal movement. That's a plus. Plus on the first catch up, the movement is higher. Here it goes on TradingView, but since it's moving, the probability of getting wiped out is very high. That's why I'm looking for another situation. Now tell me, what is this? Is this normal for you? Write in the comments. What do you think about this? I didn't stretch the candles. Look. Here's a pair. Here's a pair. Here's a pair. Here's a pair. It's grandma's fence again. Ancient. When it flies up and down, it doesn't even know what it wants at all. Well, why get involved in something like this? But here you can connect what? Candle analysis, volume, cluster, and read a small movement in one direction or the other. Yes, without affecting the situation as a whole. This can be done quite easily in principle, but I'm the type who doesn't like it, so I'll keep looking. Here's a USD cut. What's interesting is that it passed this main area where the buyer could have picked up. Right now we have a large full-bodied candle. The middle of this candle might have a reaction because the candle is liquid. The candle has a base, volume, meaning there was increased interest in buying and selling within it. So most likely, yes, a retracement movement of the candle might occur from here. But if it doesn't happen and they go below the buyback now, then I would consider entering a short position here. Up to this stop. Considering that I see strength from the seller, for example, a good solid body, volume is increasing, the buyer is declining. We close below the zone of interest, meaning, well, there needs to be a ton of evidence for further movement downward. What can I do here? I can put a little plus sign here again and go on to look for the situation further. So I get an alert on GBP AUD. We come into this area, this is damn on GBP. I wouldn't really like to consider entering, but not like this. The price is moving strongly downward, but we come into this area. It's good to try and consider a retracement move. All right, come on, GBP AUD, it seems. We'll stay with you for now. So the entry into the area has already happened. Let's see what will happen with the volume. For now, there's a lot at the top of the candle, meaning they can generally go higher than this candle. So far, there are fewer buyers than in the previous one, and fewer sellers too. That is, with each candle, the seller is decreasing, but he should be increasing as we are coming to his home. His home is the area. He should be strong here. I understand where the seller might appear. It's the middle of this area after removing this high. But it's dangerous, of course. Against such a movement, we clearly won't be flying away from this area. We will definitely try. Try to gather this high. I don't want to take it upwards because of the fact that we had a strong downward movement from here. And I don't want to take it down now because there's a lot of volume from the buyer piling up. The seller is not felt at all, and we pass through all this with one candle. My eyes would be better off not seeing this. GBP. Here I am. Here, something for 2 minutes there is. The seller is not growing, not revealing with the same cluster. So how am I supposed to open down here? What is this? What are these pullbacks? And with such a candle too. Look, it's huge. There. Something is appearing. There. And yet I think they'll close it and go higher. No, I don't want to. I'll go look further. So AUD USD. I would like to try to take an entry for a decrease. USD out. The percentage allows it. Let's start with a 2-minute entry down. Then we'll see how to continue, maybe 4 minutes. For what reason? Firstly, we have a good trending movement here. As we understand, after making a new low, we have a correction, after which we don't go up again, meaning there is no reversal. We continue with the trend. We approach this low again. For what purpose? To bounce off it. An incorrect attempt to break through it and continue the trend as we have done before. We approach a good full-bodied candle. The only downside is that a divergence lights up. The divergence more or less indicates that it is not a strong divergence. In this candle, the buyer does not become larger than the seller becomes slightly larger in terms of volume. From the candle, I can conclude that the movement can basically go lower down to the minimum. There is still some distance, we haven't even reached it yet. The cluster's area of interest is above and it is not supportive, which is not very good for the seller. At the moment of closing, we close on the buyer. A buyer appears from below. We can see it now. But if it were a strong buyer, it would have shown itself. For now, it's just drawing some kind of cross. So I didn't see a strong buyer here. There are a ton of facts suggesting an attempt to update the minimum, 43 seconds. So what do we have here? we had a buyback like this, there was a buyback on a volume twice as large as it is now. So it was much more interesting to buy and sell back then. I can assume that there might be some liquidity at these price levels as well. And after breaking this minimum, a rollback might occur. Overall, I understand that according to the trend, of course, it would be desirable to capture the main minimum made on the news, after which, by the way, the price. Look at how it bounced back and how long it has been moving since then, right here. There is definitely some buyer. Overall, I understand where this movement is heading. Basically, that's all for the analysis. Plus, we took the amount, returned it. I'm going to look for the situation further. Considering GPY, basically you don't need to go far. Thanks to the fact that my subscribers in principle understand how to read candles and volumes, this can sometimes be used to your advantage. Just guys, no, don't neglect this because after all, well, I agree, the market is such now that entering on a pullback movement, it's really scary because something like this appears out of nowhere and you're like, what? What is this? How? Why? Where? All the reactions? None? Exactly. Well, in such a market, unfortunately, or maybe not unfortunately, but fortunately, you can use reading each candle, entry for a decrease. That is, again, I see the main stop where the buyer appeared. This is evident from the fact from this movement. The previous candle of the buyer's appearance, the buyer attempts to go higher, gets suppressed, goes down again, meaning this pullback seems strong. 50% of the candle was made, but I didn't see a strong buyer here. I see the movement down again. Accordingly, where a strong buyer might appear, I will mark with a cross. This movement up to this area can be considered for the seller because overall, due to this movement. But I don't even want to look at the logic, so I will analyze purely the class of candles. Volumes, that is, the buyer in this candle is less, the seller is more. We won't be able to go further. We can consider the area of interest. In the middle, we went down through the area of interest. Of course, Okuka, well done, great job. But at the close, there are buyers right now. Some kind of pullback the buyer might issue, but there were such volumes 172, 221, 100 and a 26 tick buyer. I don't think the seller perseveres here, but rather to go up again to turn around. But to me, this is a small pullback in the movement and then down again. That is, in the case of FGPY, it might be necessary, in this case, 4 minutes to catch up. So there are 4 seconds left here. All right, let's take 4 minutes to catch up on the downside. And for now, we wait. So guys, while the deal is in play, I'm a bit bored. As for what I mentioned earlier about Forex, that is, I have separate playlists. There is a playlist with Forex practices, crypto practices, and there is Forex and binary Kiwi together, where I open positions in both simultaneously. This is mainly done to demonstrate that this approach works not only in theory, but actually works basically everywhere. If you understand what's happening on your chart, there's also a separate Forex channel linked in the profile, but again, I'm not running it at the moment. I don't have enough time for everything, but I plan to return to it soon. Just the other day, I opened Doggy, the first test trade, probably in half a year or something like that. I'm keeping it open for now. And of course, yes, people will easily say that, well, maybe I opened the trade on the 20th try, now it's showing a profit, but before that there were 20 losses. But alas, haters are not about me. Yes, I mean, look, I don't have a history even. That is sort of, it's one trade in the last, definitely about 6 months or whenever the last Forex video was, so it happened on the first try. Let's say it was luck, it doesn't matter. Nevertheless, you can see the profit right in front of you. I am not obliged to prove anything to anyone. FGPY is happening due to the rollback movement, but the opening points are again we are very close. Nevertheless, the main fact is that Yokidi is not going higher, it is trying to go lower. And that's another plus. In general, guys, I'm a bit tired and would like to end the video on this note. So, if you found it interesting or useful, give it a like, leave any comment. It can be good, it can be bad. I don't delete comments. Well, unless they get caught in the filters where you're harshly criticized with profanity. That's it. Subscribe to the channel. And basically, that's all now. All right. Goodbye.